Hi, and welcome to My Hometown Cooking, a show all about feel-good food with community roots. So today's kind of a special day for me. This is the anniversary of the day that I met my parents. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute. It's the day I was born. It's my birthday, which I'm so excited about because it was the day I met my parents. So I figured I would focus in on some foods that I truly enjoy. About a year ago, I went vegetarian, mostly vegan, but every once in a while I do have dairy. So today I thought I would kind of share with you some of the food that I really enjoy eating, especially when you want that feel-good food on a cold day. It's actually snowing today. So we're gonna do a vegetarian black bean chili with a cornbread cake. And the cornbread cake is actually vegan and gluten-free. So what I wanted to first start with is the beans in the black beans. You can go to the grocery store and buy a can of black beans anytime, but there's also these beautiful bags of dried beans, and they take a little bit more time, but that's really gonna add such a quality to the finished chili. So you just wanna go to the store. This is one bag, a 16-ounce bag of dried black beans. You're gonna wanna pick through them and just make sure there aren't any bad beans. You also don't want the beans to be wrinkled when they're dried. They're probably too old. So you just take your beans. You wanna have a colander and just rinse them real quick. So once you've rinsed your beans, you're gonna put it in a bowl that's gonna allow it to be filled with water. These have actually already been soaked overnight. But you fill the beans up so that the water covers the top of the beans, and you let that soak overnight. So these beans have soaked overnight. Actually, I'm not gonna fib with you. I forgot this morning to soak my beans, so I was like, uh-oh, what am I gonna do? I need to be here in about 3 hours. So I did the speed method, which is I did wash the beans, I put them in a pan, I boiled them up for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I left them in the pan for an hour. So best choice, soak them overnight. In a rush choice, put them in some water, bring them up to a boil for 10 to 15 minutes, and then let them sit in the hot water for about an hour, and that will just reconstitute those dry beans. So before I start my chili, the day before, I actually do a crock pot black bean. These are the most amazing black beans I've ever had. They are so creamy and just, I literally eat them with a spoon. And they're so simple to make. So you're gonna take about 2 cups of chopped onion. I use a yellow onion, 4 to 6 cloves of minced garlic, which is right in the top there. And I'm gonna put those into a crock pot on high. So I have my crock pot over here. I actually turned it on a little bit ago. And just add that right in. And then you take your overnight soaked black beans, or in this case, the quick method black beans, and you pour those in. And then you just fill your crock pot all the way up so that they cover the beans completely. Just about, not even, about a quarter to a half an inch above the beans. Cover it up, put it on high, and you leave them there for literally all day. I'll cook my crock pot black beans 12 to 14 hours. Maybe every 3 or 4 hours I'll give it a quick stir. And I don't add salt to those until the end of cooking because it really allows the water to permeate those beans without slowing down that process. And what you end up with, so you saw those beans go in, are these beautiful, thick black beans that, again, I literally eat these with a spoon. So let's leave these over here with the rest of our chili ingredients because I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to turn my pan on because we're going to start our chili with a little bit of a base first. So I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil and get that heated up. So the other bean that I use in this recipe is a red kidney bean. Again, I did buy dried red kidney beans. I soaked them overnight. So overnight you ended up with this very hard dry bean, and afterwards you end up with this more tender soaked bean. I cooked those for an hour and a half on a simmer with about a tablespoon of salt to make sure I fully cooked my red beans. Red beans cannot be eaten raw or undercooked. Actually, no bean should be eaten undercooked. There's an element in it that you want to make sure is fully cooked. So I did use that. In either case, you can use a canned bean, and I'll tell you how much once we get to that point in the recipe. So now that I have my pan heating up, the first step of your black bean chili is you're going to take about 6 to 8 cloves of minced garlic and this is about 2.5 to 3 cups of diced onions. There's lots of onions and garlic in this. So first I'm going to start with my onions and get those in the pan. I love that. That's my favorite part, when I know my pan is hot enough, because I want to get a nice browning and caramelization of my onions. So I have my pan on probably a little too hot, so I'm going to turn that down to a medium high. And now I'll add my garlic. And quite honestly, just doing onion and garlic, if you don't have time before a house, a dinner party, and maybe you got takeout, just cook up some onions and garlic on your stove, because it'll make your whole house smell like you cooked all day. That's only if you don't have time. So let's mix that in. And that's probably going to take about 8 to 10 minutes to cook those onions down. You can already smell it in here. It smells really nice. And then the real flavor builder of this is all the seasonings that you're going to put into it, plus the really slow cooked black beans. So while that's cooking up, I'll measure out all my special seasonings. So the first one is chili powder. I'm not too delicate when I measure my stuff out. Sometimes it falls over, but it's 2 tablespoons. And that's really a beautiful base that starts adding that flavor. So there's 2 tablespoons of chili powder. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of cumin. Cumin adds such a wonderful flavor to any dish. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of oregano. And here's the big choice, cayenne pepper. So some people love to eat a chili and have their whole mouth on fire. And then other people like to just have some heat, but still want to be able to have a conversation with whoever they're talking to. I fall into that category. So I only put about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne. My suggestion, and this is what I do when I make this chili, is I have a bottle of hot sauce on the table, and anyone who would like to dial up the heat on their chili is free to do so without having to make everyone suffer. So then I just blend those seasonings all together, and I'm going to set that aside next to my beans. So let me give my onions a quick stir. Oh wow, they're already cooking down. They look really good. So if anyone checked out episode 1 of My Hometown Cooking, you might start to see some reoccurring products in other recipes. So this is my Sunday sauce, and I love having mason jars in my fridge, so that when I do make stuff like this, I can use a store-bought product, but I prefer to use something that I made. So my Sunday sauce is actually going to get added into my chili as well. You're basically going to have 3 cups of tomato sauce, 2.5 to 3 cups of your cooked black beans, your crock pot cooked black beans, 2.5 to 3 cups of red kidney beans. And if you choose to go with a can, that's going to be 2 cans of black beans and 2 cans of the red kidneys. I just suggest you put them all in a colander, drain them, rinse them, and set aside. But if you've gone the extra mile to make the crock pot black beans, I'm telling you, it's going to make the difference. All right, so this looks pretty ready to add my peppers. The last raw ingredient that's going to go into this is a diced red pepper. This is 1 red pepper. It was actually a pretty good size red pepper, and it was really nice and firm. I'm adding this in near the end because I want these to be still crisper than the onions. The onions have really cooked down. I want these to give a little more bite and texture to my final chili. So I'll add that in. I think I lost one over here. I'll stir that all up. And now before I add all my mason jars of product, I always add my seasoning to the pan because I want to start cooking it. It does add a little more flavor to the final chili. It almost awakens it and brings it to life. So before I put anything else in, I sprinkle my chili powder mixture over my vegetables. I'm gonna cook that up real quick and really coat, oh yeah, I mean, right away you get hit with that chili and the cumin. And here's the best part. So now I just empty all my mason jars right on top of my veggies. Actually, I'm gonna get my spatula because I don't want one drop of this to be left in the jar. It took me all day to make them. I want all that flavor in there. So again, that's about 3 cups of black beans, about 2.5 cups of red kidney. My goodness, I'm throwing everything all over here. And then 3 cups of either your favorite jarred tomato sauce. Hopefully your favorite jarred tomato sauce has become my Sunday sauce. Add that in. And honestly, that's it. I'm just gonna stir that all around. Oh yeah. There are so many health benefits to beans, and there's a benefit to your wallet too because they are very inexpensive. I think a bag of dried beans can even be bought for about $1 sometimes. And meat can get a little expensive, so if you're on a budget or you're trying to feed a family, or if you're just looking to add a non-animal product protein source to your diet, beans are your go-to friend. I'm not going to get into eating beans slowly because we all know they're very high in fiber, so just pace yourself with the chili. Okay, so I'm going to let that come up to a simmer. I'm going to turn it down to about medium to medium low. And as that's cooking up, just give me 2 to 3 seconds and we'll get all the magic of TV to set up the next recipe. So the chili's still cooking on the stove, and one of my favorite baked items is cornbread. I love cornbread. And how do you make cornbread better? You turn it into a cake, cornbread cake. So at the end of all this, let me turn off my microwave real quick. Once you've had your chili and it's stewed and you get that nice chili powder and cumin and all those flavors coming together, this sweet cornbread is just gonna play off of that really well. And the recipe then takes, originally called for regular flour, which you can absolutely use. I try to adhere to a gluten-free diet. You don't have to, but if you choose to, just substitute out a gluten-free flour alternative instead of an all-purpose flour. When you go to the grocery store, they sell it already. It usually says all-purpose gluten-free flour or baking flour that's gluten-free, so that's what this is gonna be. So this cornbread calls for 1.25 cups of cornmeal, 3/4 cup of flour, so in this case, it's a gluten-free flour, 1/2 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, not baking soda, they are different, and that also had 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So you just want to mix all that together. Now I have a sifter at home. I don't use it very often. I tend to just try to really blend. I don't know if I'm just lazy with the sifter or what, but I really just work the flour and the sugar and the cornmeal, and mainly the baking powder to make sure it's evenly distributed throughout my mix. Baking powder is activated once you add the liquid to your recipe. So I really don't want to add the liquid until I'm ready to put it in my pan and start baking it, because I don't want it to start rising the product up until I have it in the oven. Baking soda is a little different because it doesn't have the acid included into it. So once it's hydrated, it doesn't immediately activate. So the other thing that we're going to add to this is lemon rind. So of course, by now, my kitchen gadgets, they're the favorite of mine. This is a microplaner, so it's just going to zest the outside of a lemon. So this lemon's been washed, as have my hands. And I'm just going to do a quick zesting of the lemon. And when I first saw this recipe, because I modified a recipe that I found in a book, it just really added, I wasn't sure what kind of flavor it was going to add, but it really was beautiful, just the amount of flavor that adds. So I'm going to just toss that through real quick. And now for the secret ingredient, because I did say this is a vegan cornbread. So there's no eggs, there's no dairy. We're going to go with coconut milk. So this is 1 can of coconut milk. So this is not the coconut milk that you would find next to the milk or the milk alternatives. These are actual cans of coconut milk. They sell coconut cream, coconut milk. They are different, so you just want to look for coconut milk. You can get reduced fat or regular. I went with the regular because I wanted the fatty mouthfeel that this is going to add to my rich cornbread. So that's 1 can. And this is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you just want to fold those dry ingredients into the coconut milk, just until everything's fully mixed. I can already smell that lemon. I love lemon. It just has this nice, clean smell and aroma. And it doesn't take much to add just that depth and complexity to the final product. And that coconut milk is going to make this cornbread so dense. It's really amazing, and it's super quick to make. So let's get this into an 8x8 pan. So I always line my baking pans with parchment paper, and I went online and found you can buy pre-made parchment paper squares. So I did that, but you can just take a roll that you get at the grocery store, and I just fold it in half, and I tore it so there's half and half, and this is an 8x8 baking pan. I'm just going to pour this mixture right in. Just want to get all that right in. This will make 9 cornbread squares when you're done. You want to have your oven preheated to 375, which I do. So there's that. So just cornmeal, flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, 1 can of coconut milk, teaspoon of vanilla, and in about 30 to 35 minutes, you're going to have cornbread to go with your chili. So let's get this in the oven. Oh my goodness, who put that cornbread in there? Look at that. Done. This is what your cornbread will look like. No, it does not have squares cut out. I did that before when I had it heated it up. But this is what your cornbread's going to look like. So let me get a plate together and invite some special people that I met some years ago on this special day up to join me, and we'll show you what the finished product looks like. And we're done. We're back, and These are my parents, Jack and Joanne Sharp, and this is our anniversary day of me being
That's
here.
right.
Should
Happy
we say how
birthday.
many years?
No,
No.
ever. You can guess at home.
21, 21 again.
Okay,
I know.
good, perfect. So we have some vegetarian black bean chili all plated up here with our cornbread, and we have a meal for tonight. I cooked for my own anniversary, it seems like, which seems a
Yes,
little
you
weird.
did.
Yeah. Or maybe we'll save this for tomorrow. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, and it's been a fun anniversary so far, and who knows what tonight will bring, but I'm very grateful for my family and for our town and just the opportunity to share all of this with the beautiful people here at Whitney Place and also the community. So check us out at myhometowncooking.com for the recipe, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.
Yay. Well done.
Well done.